And then our next presenter today is someone who many at the high school, I think, know pretty well, Ms. Xiomara Tennyson. She's currently a long-term sub here in our building, and in her former life, she was a military police officer for a very long time, and she has over 10 years of experience training in the civilian world as well as corporate world. She's also done some things for law enforcement. So this topic is something she has great expertise in, and we're just absolutely thrilled that we could just pick her brain a little bit today and have her share some of her knowledge with us. So I want to thank Ms. Tennyson for her passion and her time. It's amazing to me, in the short time she's been here, how many students just flock to her, and I think it all comes back to her making students feel safe and respected. So I'm very appreciative for her for that piece too. So I hope today's professional development gives you lots of food for thought. One of the things we talked about as a faculty, that this is a topic that we don't want it to be one and done, that we hope to bring more of these kind of topics to our staff in the best interest of our students. So without further ado, Ms. Tennyson.
Thank you, Dr. Flanagan, and I just want to say what an honor it is to be here in front of great educators like yourself. I've had the privilege of working with many of you, and I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. So, Ms. Flanagan introduced me, but I asked her to omit one thing, and that's that I'm a mother of 6 children. That's my favorite job. But when I say a mom of 6, as I heard in this building, you moms, 6? What are their ages? Well, the oldest one's right there, Mr. Tennyson. He's 22 years old. But you don't look like a mom. I've also mentioned, I've been training for over 10 years. How old are you? Well, welcome to looking beyond whom you see. Culture diversity training. See, sometimes we're not aware of certain things due to our culture. Let's just say you went to a doctor's appointment. And in that doctor's appointment, you become aware that you have high cholesterol. Do you just shun food automatically? No, we just enjoyed food. And we probably enjoyed it a little bit more than we wanted to, so we don't shun it all. But what do? Becoming aware of it, we took certain steps. Changed our diet, probably exercise. Why? Because we want our overall health to benefit. So in this training, in this awareness, I want to say, when we become aware of something, due to our culture, we're going to learn some things about ourselves. We're going to look at some pictures, answer some questions. So if you do not have an index card, please raise your hand and you will get one. We're going to also look at some statistics, how our demographics are changing. We're going to watch 2 videos, and don't worry, I know it's a Friday, I'm not going to keep you here all day, and I don't got that much time. Usually these trainings, I do from 8:30 to 3:30. I don't have that much time. So I'm going to get right into it. When we say culture, what do you think of? Do you think of your home, your clothes, your style, your food, your children, your traditions? Your beliefs? Or does your mind go somewhere else? Well, culture is defined broadly as learned norms, values, symbols, like our great American flag that we hold so dear, beliefs, languages, thinking, affects our thinking, behavior norms, communication styles, and knowledge that are constantly communicated among people who share a common way of life. Like you guys do here at East Long Meadow High. You guys, in fact, have your own culture here. See, I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I was born and raised there. Most of my travel was with the United States Army, where I served as a military police officer. And when I came to East Long Meadow, it was a different culture. But being aware of my culture, aware of my beliefs, of my values, I was able to have culture competency, which we're going to get into. So, what is our culture? What is our perception of our culture? How is it grown? How do we perceive certain things in our culture? Well, through life experiences. Sometimes we may experience very traumatic things by a certain individual or a certain culture, a person from a certain culture, and that's it, I don't deal with them. That's a life experience. And I just want to tell you, we're all human. So we all have certain things. We all inherited imperfection. All of us here. And in our culture, we also inherited certain things that may need to be adjusted. So parental influences and may adjust as we interact with our peer groups, social media, and education, what you learned in school versus who you socialized with. Most of us grew up believing in Santa, right? Christmas was probably one of our favorite holidays. But as you grew, you learned Santa's not real. And if there's any students here, ask your parents. Okay? But that's what we learned. And we hold it so dear. Do you remember getting up? Do you remember unwrapping those gifts? Do you remember the pictures that were taken? Well, I do. You see, our culture impacts us through various ways. We can get deeper into it, but you get the picture. We are a product of our environment. It impacts our culture. So what are we going to learn? Well, I'm going to keep it simple, but thorough. That's how I operate. And excuse my headpiece if it's too big. I'm usually have a hat on. I'm addressing different people. I have a uniform on, but I think everybody can hear me clearly. So, in the past, what did you believe to be true about certain individuals or cultures? We're going to examine that a little bit. Presently, what are we identifying as our implicit bias due to our culture? Implicit bias due to our culture? I don't think that applies to me, Ms. Tennyson. It absolutely does. 100%. Math teachers, 100%. Becoming aware of these biases, how will you apply it as an educator when dealing with your students? You see, sometimes as educators, we have that one size fits all. This is it. Everyone here is as unique as your culture. Everyone here is a different learner. We have visual learners, people who need to write, people who need to watch and listen. So that one size fits all, are we hypocrites saying, do it or else? There may be some adjustments. You guys are great educators. You've guys seen class after class after class graduate. We want to continue toward that student success, but there's always a way to become better. There's always ways to improve as an educator. So we're going to look at teacher cultural competency. What is that? Well, it's when we have an understanding of our own culture and the ability to appreciate or interact with another race or culture, rather. It's examining your level of culture competence. So I mentioned on the outset that I was in the military. At one of our trainings, we had a red tape on the floor. And all I had to say was toe on the line. Your toe have to be on that line. I said, this is madness. I was co-ed, so I was trained male and female. Our training for that day was to put on our pants one leg at a time. This is ridiculous, I said. We all have to get dressed in front of each other? Why? To show that there is no difference between any soldier, male or female, creed, race, gender, anything. Trans, at the time, homosexual. Nothing different between us soldiers. One leg at a time. So that's how we build that commonality. That's how we see ourselves as one. You too can find that commonality to bridge, but it also requires you to develop the ability to shift cultural perspectives, adapt, abridge, and those commonalities and differences. You know in your culture you don't observe a certain thing, but yet another one does. You're aware. What are you going to do? Just continue? No, find the commonality. And that's going to be reiterated through here. See, repetition helps us just to remember. What would that do? Well, that will create a welcoming class environment for all students to succeed. And that's what we're all about. The mission statement, strive for success. Critical thinking, collaboratively. Well, this is us. And as educators, you love using your brain. That's what you stand for. To learn, to teach, to reach, to succeed, to inspire. That's what we're all about. So we're encouraged to develop this cultural competency because it will allow us to find that commonality, and we can build from there, one leg at a time. So, everyone have their index cards, right? If you need another one, we'll have some. We have a lot more. Staples, they had them all sell. All right. What does your successful student look like to you? I want you to write down what a successful student look. Now, I've heard in this, but I've been here 20 years, I've been here 15 years, I've been here 12 years. All right. So you know what one looks like. Take 2 seconds. Write it down for me, please. Does anybody need an index card? You can look up when you're done. All right, so we have our student. So tell me, were they in a wheelchair or had another form of disability? Did any of them have an accent? Were they all from East Long Meadow originally? What was their gender? What was their race? Were they gay, lesbian, or transgender? Now, I'm not giving you these to make you feel, oh, Ms. Tennyson, I didn't. No, I'm not trying to make you feel bad in any way. This is how we start. This is how we start to look beyond whom we see. Because every student that comes into your class is an individual. I was a student, you were a student, and we remember our great teachers, and we remember our not so good teachers. And we remember the effects that it had on our life, do we not? Now, please don't put your names on these index cards. If you did scribble it out, I'm going to collect them. And I'm just going to put it in a poll so we can see ways to improve as educators. So when you look at that student, and if you didn't see any of these students, then let's determine. Let's determine where you may have learned this bias or judgment. Was it parental, co-worker, media? You see, the media, social media, we may say, oh, these kids are so affected by this. We are too. When there's something constantly blared on the news about a certain individual, certain creed, certain gender, certain race, then we're affected. Unless you can't hear it. And if you can't hear it, you can see it. We're all affected by it. Our culture influences every decision we make, whether it's explicit or implicit. We know what we already don't like. We already know what we don't like. But sometimes we need to have a broader view and be taught. You see, when dealing with law enforcement officers, I'm sure many of you know an officer or two. This is the training that they vigorously have to go through constantly. Not one time a year, not 2 times a year, but it's a continuum. Because we affect society. But where do those officers come from? You guys. That's how they start. You. You are the start of officers. You are the start of lawyers, doctors, soldiers. You are the start. So you see your important role? That's your role. I'm battling a cold. It just happened last night. It had to happen of all days. I'm sorry. So we have to be honest with ourselves. When we're getting deeper into this awareness, we need to be honest with ourselves. When we say, no, Ms. Tennyson, that doesn't happen to me, maybe. But what circumstance have you been in to see if it does or does not impact you? This is how we identify our personal biases due to our culture. So, implicit bias, it was mentioned. How does it occur? What do you mean by that, Ms. Tennyson? Well, implicit bias occurs when someone consciously rejects something that they don't like, but also holds a negative association in his or her mind unconsciously. So you're in fact not aware that it's happening. It doesn't mean that you're hiding it. You're just not aware that you have it because it's unconscious. All of us fell asleep last night. If there was a bug on you last night, guess what? You don't know it. If there was anybody running around your house last night, guess what? You didn't know it. Why? Because you were unconscious. In the same aspect, you're not conscious of certain things that, due to culture, we have. Same thing. So, as Dr. Howard Ross is a world-renowned psychologist, and his specialty is in implicit bias. And his statement is, we make decisions in a way that is designed to confirm or beliefs that we already have. So if we already have a certain implicit bias about a certain individual culture, then we're going to continue on down that road. So most of us own a car, right? We own a car. What happens when we get a flat tire? We continue driving, right? No, you're stuck. You don't go anywhere. What do you have to do in order to keep moving? AAA or change that tire? In order to move forward. Same way with our biases. We can sit here and say, well, Ms. Tennyson, you're only how old and I'm this old and bias. You know me? So, again, we want to become aware. As Dr. Ross said, we make decisions in a way that is designed to confirm beliefs that we already have. So we will continue down that road. We need to change direction. So, what are your beliefs? What are some of these beliefs that we might have had growing up? What are some of these beliefs that we've had interacting with our peers? What is the media telling us? What do we now believe? Did our beliefs change? What adjustments are needed in order to become teacher competent, where we can have our competency? What adjustments must we make? Now, as I said in the outset, if someone became aware that they had high cholesterol, are they going to eat that juicy steak tonight? With butter, mashed potatoes? See, you already ate. So this is what I want y'all to eat before. Talking food. No. We make adjustments. We may eat some, but not all. We may say, all right, steak on a salad. Again, these are the adjustments that we need to make as educators. We need to understand their culture, interact with our students, who's sitting in our classroom. How can we teach more effectively? Well, as educators, you guys all took psychology, and you learned a lot of things about human behavior. How does it feel if someone talks down to you or at you? What do you usually do? Shut up. That's it. You don't talk to them no more. They're going to get whatever they need to get out of you for that second, and that's it. But how does it feel when somebody is an empathetic listener or is genuine? You became teachers to inspire lives, to build for our future. In your classrooms is our future, my children's future, your children's future. So how can I teach more effectively? Find that commonality. Know that due to cultural background, students may react differently in the same circumstances, and I have an example to go along with this one. You see, in certain cultures, it's offensive to talk so close to an individual. They believe in that personal space. Personal space, arm length away from your face, personal space. That's what they believe in. Student came up to me, Miss Tennyson, calm down. I have a class going on, let's talk in the hallway. We'll redirect that student. What happened? Well, this teacher came up to me, he started swearing in my face, just banging. But when he came close to me in my culture, that is offensive. But the teacher wasn't aware of that. Why or why not? What could this teacher have done differently? See, one size fits all does not work. Who wants to wear my shoes? Who wants to run in them? I've been in these for like 8 hours. I'm good though. I can run too. But one size don't fit all. Why is this important? Why should we even have this discussion? Well, just this year, CNN came out with a study published in the Journal of Child Development, and it states that when a Black or Latino middle school student notice racial bias at school, they are more likely to lose trust in their teachers and other authority figures. So if we are not in tune with our culture, in tune with our biases and implicit biases, then we're not just affecting them in the classroom. We're affecting them when they leave, when they're at home, when they're on the street, and their future. That's who we're affecting. But this is not an awareness to say, well, Ms. Tennyson, is that, was that really happening in Massachusetts? Yes. Milton Academy, May 24th. Students sit-in protest over bias. Hundreds of East Hampton High students, March 30th, 2017. Another protest because of bias. Waltham High School, these are all Massachusetts high schools. That occurred this year. All-day protest. Belmont High School. What do these have in common? Implicit bias. Students wanted to be heard and they weren't heard. That's what happened. Do we want to see East Long Meadow High up there? No. So that's why as educators, it's imperative that we start opening our minds a little bit. See, Ms. Tennyson's been here for a year and some months, right? And while I was warming up my lunch, we know how lunch is, it's like short, so we're like rushing. Warming up my lunch, educator walks in, bright eyes. I'm always one to greet, how are you? How's your day? Everything going well? That's just me. Educator looks at me, puts their hands on my shoulder and says, you people are great. You people are always changing things up. I like it. So is it here? Maybe. Smidge? How did I react to that? Well, I looked at this educator knowing that they weren't aware of the implicit bias and knowing that I'm going to have a diversity training coming up. So you know what I said? We people stand together as one. Isn't that great? That we people can stand behind our students and push them all to greatness? It's so awesome that we people have the ability to do that. But you have a nice day. Bye. I gotta eat my spaghetti. So it is here. Try to find what we have in common with our student. That's what success looks like. Let's strive for progression instead of perfection. None of us here can reach perfection. We can't. But guess what we can do? We can strive for progress. Progress reports just went out. What's our progress report going to look like? Let's find that common denominator. Work with that commonality. All right, here's another one. Write down on your card, who do you see here? Be honest, please. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him while you're writing. This individual buys and sells drugs. He's forced his way into many homes and businesses. He hangs with notorious gang members. He has access to many vehicles, has been involved in shootings, and known by the FBI. Who is he? Well, everybody wrote down there who they think they see? Good. Did you see this individual? What about this one? Who is he? He's a decorated detective with the city of Boston, a hero who saved his life and the life of his partner, undercover agent who received numerous awards for his bravery and teamwork, father of our 6 kids, and my husband, Harry Jean. Yes, that's me behind him. Because I always got his back. But you know what an educator said to Harry? You can't focus, Harry. You will never succeed as a police officer if you don't focus, because he was born in a cruiser. And it was his lifelong dream to become an officer. 29 years and counting he's been on the Boston Police Department. 29 years. His investigations didn't just take a day, an hour, but it took years. So if that's not steadfastness, then it needs to be redefined. He's known he recovered and booked and was in court with one of the biggest notorious gang members, therefore hanging with them undercover, and brought him in off the streets of Boston, therefore taking tons of drugs, guns, and influences off our city streets. That's who Harry is. But there was another educator who raised him up. See, our students, we don't know who we're looking at yet. They don't know who they want to be yet, some of them. So let's make sure we're checking ourselves. So let's look at our second example. Who do you see here? Please write it down. She's from Pakistan, a Muslim, and this woman is defiant. Very defiant woman. Did you see this individual? This one? Who is she? Her name is Malala Yousafzai. She is the youngest ever to date to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. At age 11, she courageously wrote to the BBC about life under the Taliban. For that bravery in her stance, she was shot point blank in her face. But that didn't stop this young lady. She's now a world-renowned author, and the kids in Enfield and other school districts are now reading her book, had read her book for some reason. Is this who you saw? You know what Malala believes in? You. She believes in education. That was her passion. So look around this room. You see who's sitting next to you? Another educator. May not be in the same subject, but it's someone who are inspiring and touching lives. That's who you see in this room. That's who I see. That's what I tell my children to believe in. You. Like Malala did. So now we're going to look at a video. And it's a video of children, it's going to be in the narrative, who experience implicit bias. And Mr. Jambronis is going to come up after the video, and he's going to touch on the statistics, reason why I'm using this certain video. So please pay attention. And I appreciate your patience with technical difficulties if there's any.
There are things in my school where there will be 3 black kids in a class, and after the first little quarter, you'll get your work done, you'll have pretty good grades, but the teacher will be like, she'll pull those 3 black kids aside, be like, you guys need to separate from each other, you're distracting the class. There might be 3 white girls in the back laughing the entire class, and the only thing she'll say is be quiet. Being black comes with the stereotypes of being loud, disruptive, and always angry when you don't get your way. I just think I just wanted to be heard, I should say. Especially being one of the few black kids in your class, just being heard is one of the big things for me. So I don't think teachers try to do it, but they do.
I'm the one that gets sent out the classroom. All the kids look at me like, oh, he got issues, he gotta leave the class once every 3 periods because, but that's just, it's also my fault because, that's who I choose to sit next to,
I remember back in 1st grade, this situation really got on my nerves. So I forgot why, but for some reason, a girl was crying, a white girl, she was crying, and the teacher called me over. And the girl told her that I made her cry, I pushed her down. I was like, I didn't, because I actually hadn't. And I kept on saying I hadn't, it wasn't me. And I guess the girl didn't know exactly who it was, or she thought it was me. But then the teacher took her word for it, and I got sent to the office. And that was one of the things at such a young age, where I was just like, wow, why exactly?
So like if I tell my parents like there's something going on at school between the teacher and like my mom, she was like, you want me to go over there? I'm like, no, I don't. Because like it's gonna have a bad effect on the looks of me and her. Cause like she's gonna go over there like the angry, mad black woman, and then the teacher is gonna get a stereotype of her, and then she'll be like, oh, that's why he's doing bad at school, or that's why that. And so I try to like fix it on my own to like get back at the teacher and to let them know like I'm not what they think I am.
One of the things that bothered me was my teachers would grade me differently based on this is at first, they would maybe grade me a little bit easier based on the color of my skin than they did my white counterparts. Yeah. And I felt like as teachers, they had internalized the belief that because I'm black, my expectations of the type of work that I could do was less than maybe some other students. So when I walked in the room, they automatically thought that the work that I was gonna do maybe wouldn't have been as articulate or as progressed as some of the other kids, just based off of the way I look. And that's how are black kids coming in after me supposed to feel if their history, English, math, science teachers, when they first walk in, believe that they're not as smart as other kids.
I know I'm smarter than what the teacher thinks, so if I'm gonna take, what they give me, and I'm gonna take advantage of it and turn it around into that A or that B plus that the teacher didn't think I could get. or if they give me this extra help that I know I don't need, you say, okay, thank you, but you finish it before everybody else does, and it just slaps the teacher in the face.
No matter how many Louis Armstrongs there are, no matter how many James Baldwins there are, we're always going to be looked at different, you know, always, just because of our skin color. I mean, you know, we are in shackles, but they're just gold-plated, so it looks like, you know, we are okay. But at the end of the day, like, we're always going to be shackled up into that category, you know. That's just how it is.
I feel like they like take black people and then they're like, here you go, put you in this box. This is how you're supposed to act. You can't come outside of this because you can't act this way. This area right here, this is white, so you have to stay inside the black box. Like, I hear a lot, like, if there's like a black person being really articulate, knowing what they're talking about, oh, why are you talking white? Like, what exactly is talking to white? Like, so being articulate and intelligent, that's talking white, that's acting white.
Yeah, you hear the term, oh, why are you trying to act so black?
Right.
Yeah. Like that's less than.
Right.
They just call them straight up weak. You know? You can't play this sport. They can be the best person on the team, but they're weak because they don't look like everybody else.
Well, when I'm with black people, I'm acting white. And when I'm with white people, I'm acting black. And I feel like I don't really have a place. Like, where do I fit in? Where am I just myself? Where am I just me?
And some black people say, you don't act your colors. Like, I need you to act so-called white right now. It makes me feel like, for some reason, among the whole world, my color is put down to just put down another level. It doesn't make me feel good inside. It makes me feel a little angry with myself, because I feel like I'm supposed to do something to try to change it, but I don't know where to start.
It's a lot of division in between the black races.
Yeah.
Why can't we just embrace our own culture? Why can't we be united? But no, I'm light skin, I'm dark skin, light skins act like that, dark skins act like that. But it's not just, we're black, we're brothers.
Yeah.
I wish we could do things like paint, do swimming, do golf, do filmmaking, do acting, do all these things and not be looked at as being more white. Like, I don't think football, basketball should be they shouldn't be the limits of self-expression for us as a whole. We should be able to feel like we can do more without being judged and being put in boxes because we only do these certain things. I feel like there's a lot of problems such as lack of resources and support, like more institutional problems that persist that might not go deeper, that might not allow black men to get to the same point as white males. And I think this applies for a lot of black males. If your only form of self-expression at the end of the day is like to go on a basketball court or to go on a football field, that affects your ability to do homework after school. So if that's the only other thing you can do to express yourself besides just going to classes, then like, how is that helping you? Like,
I feel like there's a lot of stuff, not exactly like this, but like a lot of black people, like we can go to our friends and we talk about stuff like this, but then again, like, what do we do about it? Are we like, and where do we start to do something about it? Like, we can talk about, it's this and this is how it is and it's because of this and that, but then again, what are we doing? What steps are we taking to make that progress to, like, as we whole purpose, how are we gonna close that achievement gap?
So did you notice what the students said? They just want to be heard. That's all. As an educator, you have that opportunity to hear all your students out. All of them. The whole thing that touched me about that as a young man wasn't scripted. They were just asked to come in and talk about how their classroom affects them. What part of their teacher or certain teacher affected them. So, with not further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Jambroni to please come up here. He was so kind to get these stats for me. So we can look at how our demographics are changing here in East Long Meadow in our national stats. Mr. Jambroni, please.
I'm so psyched to be talking to you guys about this. That cultural potluck was pretty cool, huh? All that different kinds of food. I saw one from Miss Borekevich, Pad Thai, Polish version. That's awesome. I just saw the card. I don't know if the food was actually there. If I could sum up what I'm all about in one word, it would be pad thai, the iconic food of Thailand, Polish version. I think that's great. I'm gonna start by asking you guys a question. How many languages do we have here spoken in the homes of East Longmeadow families? Who says between 0 and 5? Just indicate with your hand. 0 and 5. Just a couple, okay. It's not that. Between 5 and 10? Just a few more, okay. 10 to 15 languages spoken in the homes of EL. That's a lot. 15 to 20? You're all wrong. I tricked you. It's 22, which is a lot, and it's totally awesome. The big takeaway from all of this stats is it's good. It's a positive. Just like the cultural potluck, food from different places. How good would that be if all of it was hot dogs and hamburgers? Not to diss hot dogs and hamburgers, but when it's diverse, it's better. Everybody benefits, right? And then sometimes you get really cool combinations, like Polish pad thai, which I really do think is awesome. I wish I had the opportunity to try some. 22 languages. And it's okay if you don't exactly know what countries are the origin of all of them, because I didn't. Gujarati is actually northwest India, and we had that at the elementary school. Khmer is one Cambodian student, that's Cambodia. Farsi, Filipino, also known as Tagalog in some places. It's pretty cool. The way I think about this is each one of these is an opportunity for you to build rapport with your students. One of the things that Ms. Tennyson is so good at is building rapport. It's a huge part of teaching. It's kind of like everything we do. When I started teaching about 10 years ago, someone, the union head in the city I was at, said, I used to teach math, but math really is just the vehicle. It's building relationships with kids. And I was like, this guy's crazy. And then after a few years, I just realized that he was correct. It's all about rapport. Each one of these is an opportunity for you to build rapport. It doesn't matter if you're not sure how to speak any of these languages. None of us can. But it's the way to take a step. Progress, not perfection. Some of you know I speak some Spanish, but I'm not perfect. I know I'm making mistakes. But I took that first step, and I'm willing to continue trying to get better. It's building that bridge. Can't hear it? Change is good. These are statistics from just a couple years ago, 12-13 school year. So for our purposes, it's 4 years ago, because the most recent that I was able to get from the DC website was 16-17. So 4-year-old statistics we have, as you can see them on the board. The left column is our school here, the middle column is a state, and the right column is the United States. Now remember, these represent students, right? So the population of the United States is not going to be 51% white because of the age distribution, right? These are people between ages 5 and 17, school-age students. 51% is an important number, pay attention to that. Also pay attention to the state number of Asians, actually more than United States. Massachusetts has a lot of Asian people, especially out east, but here increasingly as well too. Four years later, we have this. We actually went from 90.5% to 84% in 4 years. That's a significant change. Think about it this way. In 1960, when this school was built, right, 95% Caucasian or more, right? 95 to 100. Throughout the 60s, 95 to 100. 1970s, 95 to 100. 1980s, 95 to 100. 1990s, 2000s. Up until very recently, that number is over 90%. The last 10 years creeping down towards 90, and just in the last 4 years, we're now in the mid-80s. And the 17-18 numbers are going to be even lower, but we don't have the exact statistic, but I'll show you something about that later. If you notice, also another thing is the Asian population, I guess you could say, exploded because it went from 2.5 to 6% in 4 years. It's over doubling. And it's almost in line with the state average for Asian and greater than the United States. And also the other thing to notice is what happened sometime in 2014, the U.S. as a nation became majority-minority because, as you can see, for percentage U.S., the best statistics we can get, it's 47% white, meaning the majority of school-age children are not white, or they're people of color. So the U.S. is changing. Massachusetts is changing. The numbers are a little different, but these are changes that are positive. We need to embrace them and you know, confront the biases that we have that those kids were talking about. And by the way, for that video, you could do that for Latino students. You could do that for LGBTQ students. You could do it for a lot of different groups, and you'd get similar results about how they feel marginalized by teachers. So looking at these stats is a way for us to, you know, see it is changing. We have almost 20% Latino in Massachusetts, and 4% here. That number will increase. No one can predict the future, but it has to. It's increasing nationwide as well. Places like California are majority minority as well, throughout the whole population, not just the school-age population. California, over 50% considered Hispanic or Latino. This is a very significant change, and again, no one can predict the future, but in the next 4 years, who knows how different it will be. So the time to adapt is now. In terms of English language learners, the group that I help the most, I've included on the right side the District 12 and State 2012 numbers, and the most recent numbers from 16-17. We went from 2012, 0.1 of our district was an English language learner, and 3.7% first language not English. To 5 years later, it's 2% and 6.7%. So one of them, first language not English, has doubled, and English language learner has gone up by whatever percentage, 0.1 to 2.0. It's still low numbers, especially compared to the state, but our district is getting more diverse. Our schools are getting more diverse. And the first language not English and English language learner difference is a good thing, right? Because all people that are bilingual aren't English language learner. English language learner, what I do is define as they need some English support, so they're sufficiently new to the language to need some help. First language not English being 6.7%, those are the ones that maybe don't need help. They're just bilingual. That's our goal, right? Our goal is to have bilinguals, to have biculturalism. Every study ever done, I mean, you just Google bilingual, is it good? It's actually a cognitive benefit to be bilingual. 56% of the world is bilingual. Monolingual, 40-something%, depending on different estimates. Europe's over 50% bilingual. Monolingualism is not the norm for human beings. Bilingualism is. Bicultural, multilingualism is. Most people speak more than one language. So it's good. It helps you think. It helps you see your culture, to see your language for what it is. Makes you a better writer, it has enormous benefits. So we should be promoting it at all costs. And it's not a static classification. All you have to do is be motivated. You have a student who speaks another language, knows another language, is from a different culture, you just have to be motivated to want to learn about that and to want to try to speak it. However clumsy it will be, progress, not perfection, is the key. Our economically disadvantaged numbers increased too. They strongly correlate to free lunch, but they did change that metric, so it's not exactly the same. 17% now in 2017, whereas in 5 years ago it was 10% of the kids getting free lunch. They didn't have the economically disadvantaged metric back then. They just had free lunch. It's about the same because you can see the state numbers are the same. So that's another group that's changing. East Long Meadow is changing, and change is good. Summer 17 enrollment, these are unofficial stats that I counted just myself because our new enrollees, I kind of have to go through their paperwork to make sure that they fill out the home language survey and that they're not ELLs, that if they indicate a language other than English, I either have to test them or I have to make sure that they've already been tested and that their English is sufficient for them to succeed in our district. In summer 17, I counted just 43 new students moved to EL during the summer, and that was just the middle school. That's grades 6 to 8. That was a lot. That was more than other years. I don't keep the exact statistics from the last 2 years, but that's the most I've ever had to go through. And I just counted 12 of their folders, their enrollment folders, had indicated a language other than English spoken in their homes. 12 out of 43. And that's just me counting and going, okay, so this is, and then I had to look, and I looked for previous paperwork that shows, oh, they tested out already, you know, whatever place they're coming from, or oh, they, you know, they have these records that show that, oh, they've already tested out, or whatever it is. So 12 out of 43 is 28%. So the new kids coming into our district are a little bit different than the ones that maybe you're used to. And at this school, Carmen actually went through the paperwork so quickly and filed them right after I counted them. I wasn't able to get the count, but it was about 1 out of 4. So very similar numbers in terms of which ones are bilingual, have English, a language other than English spoken in their house. So yeah, we're changing. And change is good. What's it all mean? There's a lot of different ways to interpret it. I mean, we're changing. The state's changing. The country's changing. We've already gone, you know, Caucasian students are already below 50%. We can talk about the Caucasian designation, you know, and maybe that's a conversation for another day. But the legacy families, the kids who kind of like hear from K on, the kids coming through, maybe more Caucasian, but the ones new to the district this last summer, and I'm sure the summer before that, are much more diverse. Our numbers are changing as well, just in other ways. The U.S. as a country will become a plurality of racial and ethnic groups by 2050, 2060. The 5-year-olds, white Caucasians, are already a minority. And for that group to age out and represent the population as a whole, as a percentage, being less than 50% will take until about 2050, but it's already happened. We deal with kids, you know, that are teenagers, 5-year-olds, they're 10 years away from seeing us. As a nation, this is already below 50%, and as a state, it's at 61%. So these are changes we should embrace. These are all positives. These are all really good. Yeah, like I just said, that trend is reflected among school-age children. It's the beginning of the shifting demographics of the United States. We are representative of that. It's 100% positive. If you need any more proof, the simplest one is you know, having diverse kinds of foods not only makes the food different and better, but it also allows for kind of like remixes of different dishes into, you know, different cultural things. And that's really what we want going on in our classes. Kids that are a little bit different, maybe from a marginalized group, it's an opportunity to take what they experience and kind of bring it to everyone else, and to share and exchange opinions and viewpoints. So it's 100% positive, and I thank you for listening to me today. I'm going to turn it back to Ms. Tennyson.
Thank you, Mrs. Giambroni, so much for getting those statistics for us and helping us become aware that our demographics are changing. Again, becoming aware of something helps us to prepare for it. So, as educators, we rise by raising up our students. And I'm just going to give you 3 points that is general. You can use Tuesday, because Monday's not school. You're also going to have a handout to take with you, 10 commitments of a multicultural educator. Also, there will be an implicit bias test, therefore, i.e. the laptops, for the last 15 minutes of this course. So, what can we do? How can we raise up our students? Well, let's correct in private and praise in public. See, when I was a corporate trainer, I traveled to Chicago, New York, Boston, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Boca, Florida. I met great people. I even trained in Massport at Logan International Airport. For JetBlue, Virgin, Delta. This was one of the main points, because we interact with so many different cultures at an airport, in law enforcement, in military, teachers, educators. Humility before honor. We know we're right. We got the degree to prove it, right? We know. But let's correct in private and praise in public. That's one thing we can do tomorrow, Tuesday. Observe and actively listen. And remember, just because you're actively listening, that doesn't equate to agreeing. When you're an active listener, this is what you're doing. I understand. Okay. Or you just hold your position. That's all. Stop what you're doing and just listen. Empathy, responsibility, respect will help us all communicate more effectively. When you're empathetic, what does that mean? You're in their shoes now. That's what that means. You're looking at things from their perspective. An empathetic listener is someone gaining, not pushing away. The responsibility you have as an educator, remember, molding lives? Because you can, in fact, stop growth if we just my way or the highway. Respect goes across the lines. We all want respect. When I was a first-time sub here, I would introduce myself and said, all right, students, respect is earned, not given. Respect me, we'll have a good day. You don't, then you'll get to know me better. Respect is one of those things that go across the cultural with anyone. So we're just going to look at a couple scenarios. A student with a disability. Now, I believe in all students' abilities, and I never diss nobody's ability. That's just me. But I'm going to give you a scenario of a student that spoke with me just recently. My student came into the classroom, and when my students come in, I'm, good morning, how are you, good afternoon. See, they don't know what I'm doing, but I'm looking at them. I'm reading them. How are they doing? My student comes in, sits down, throws their bag on the floor. Now, usually this student comes in, they know the rules. Hey, you want an A in this class? Make sure you come in and we get on what we need to get. Let's get on it. Ask for help. Let's advertise for ourselves. So, I get all the kids going, paras in the classroom. I go to the student, I say, hey, want to go outside and talk? Is something bothering you? Student's looking at me. Para, I'll be right back. Go talk to the student in the hallway. By the time we get to the hallway, I can see tears filling in their eyes. So I already know their emotion. They're upset about something. I'm not a scientist or anything, just looking at them. I say, hey, what's wrong? Well, Miss Tennyson, I was just in my last block. I asked the teacher for extra help because I just needed a certain tool to help me succeed. Word bank, graph organizer, what have you. And the teacher looked at me and said, what do you want me to do, everything for you? Is that what you want me to give you the answers? So I said, why do you think the teacher would act? I don't know, maybe because I have an IEP. They're the I in that IEP. Individual Education Plan, IEP. So it's their needs we're here for. Okay. I said, look, we all have off days. We all do. Miss Tennyson's going to have an off day anytime soon. She had probably already didn't even notice it yet. But we all have off days. But that doesn't give that educator the right to treat you that way. No, by any means. But you know what I see in you? You were able to come to my class. You were able to respectfully sit down, even though you're in the state you're in. You were able to articulate what's going on in your mind and how you're feeling. You know how difficult that is for adults to do? I see your ability. And I know that educator did too. But he or she was probably just having an off day. Tell me what you need. Let's get it. We got that work done, that block. Now, all stories aren't going to end like that. But that's the student with a disability. What is our feel with them? Do we see success with them like everybody else? Do we? Let's look at our second scenario, a student with traditions. So as we said in the outset, in our culture, we have traditions that we hold so dear. In our tradition, while we were in Boston, Massachusetts, we would go down to South Boston, and it's called Castle Island. At the dark, winter, fall, whatever. And we would look at the hermit crabs. Kids will go, we even paint their face with camel, with the lights, looking at the crabs. The airplanes will come so low, you can see the landing gear and feel the push. That was our tradition. We adjusted it as we moved further west. But again, we hold those traditions dear. So my next student was in class, sitting there. The student said that the class was very vibrant. People were raising their hands, interacting. Teacher was engaging. Good. Up until they got on the subject about religion. The student said that the teacher came up to her desk and said, "We read the Bible here in America. That's what we do." First the student was like, "That's great. Miss Tennyson, I think I know why she came up to my desk and did that." I said, "Why do you think that?" "It's because in my tradition, we don't read the Bible." And I don't know if you don't know. What don't you know? You're going to succeed. I believe in you. Because in the book that you do read, which I have read, it says that we're not going to let no earthly government, nothing separate us between our duty to our tradition. But we'll continue to move forward. Do you remember that verse? Yes. Okay. In life, we will have challenges. Like in a mighty hand, an arrow is what? It's pulled back before it's what? Launched forward, right? So how do you know this is not your time just to be dragged back just a little bit to go on to greatness? Stand up, move forward, student checked in, we're good. Now again, this is not always going to be I'm going to have that issue where I'm not going to be able to, I need some time. In a sense, it ain't perfect. I just care. I care. I care for every student in this building. I do. Just remember, as educators, the way we conduct ourselves can determine the outcome of a situation. All of us are parents here, either of pets or children. If our child finds, oh my goodness, the baby or the dog or the cat freezes, right? Whatever. Am I dying? But if we say, all right, let's go. See, the way we conduct ourselves as educators will let those students know whether or not, yes, I am in charge, yes, I know what I'm doing, and yes, I care about you. That's how we build commonalities. That's how we engage our students. And please don't assume you know what a student's going to say. Rather, listen intently and hear the student out. You can't probably tell, but I used to stutter very bad growing up. Legit, like, teachers would get frustrated with me and say, "What are you saying, Xiomara?" I'm trying. Look at me today, I'm talking to teachers. I have a little cold. That might be making me a little, I gotta concentrate, but never assume. You don't know who you're looking at yet. But let's help them all become who we see, who we want them to be. If you see them that way, that's who they may become. So in our last video we're going to look at, it's about presumptuousness, something we want to avoid as educators.
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Oh, no. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, like, where are your people from?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean. But I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
Yeah. Hamshasina. There's a really good teriyaki barbecue place near my apartment. So I actually really like kimchi.
Cool. What about you? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
But where are you from?
Oh, I'm just American.
Really? You're Native American?
No, just regular American. Oh, well, I guess my grandparents are from England.
Oh, well. Hello, Governor! What's all this then? Top of the morning to you. Let's get a small tea. Double, toil and trouble. Mind the gap! Beware, Jack the Ripper! Bloody hell! Pip pip! Cheerio! I think your people's fish and chips are amazing.
You're weird.
Really? I'm weird? Must be a Korean thing.
You like it? Did you like that video? You can give the video an applause. So, avoiding presumptuousness will avoid those awkward moments. So why do we want to honor our diversity? Because it's our advantage. Here at East Long Meadow High, you can set that standard. You can show not only Massachusetts, but the world that yes, I do believe in them, and yes, I will believe in them, and I will continue to believe no matter what. Because I mold a life. Because I can inspire. Because I will expire. Honor our diversity. Our mission statement, one of them. So here's the part where the papers are going around where you can take the implicit bias test. I'm going to summarize what we learned. And while you're taking this test, we ask that you click on the race tab. It takes 7 minutes. This is a test that you're not only taking, but the healthcare professionals I've trained taken it. Law enforcement individuals have taken it. Pilots have taken it. What's the point? Most of the people who deals with the public have already taken it. So I just want to summarize before you guys start clicking away. Because you're going to have to use the E and the I key very quickly, simultaneously, while you're looking at photos. So if I can just have your attention so I can summarize this, and you guys can go ahead with that implicit bias survey. In summary, we discuss how we should think beyond what we can physically see and what we presume we may know. In education, you know you can never stop learning. There's always a new word. There's always something new. Education doesn't stop. My math teacher's numbers never stop. Words never stop. We learned that there may be adjustments that we all have to make in order to make sure that we are affording all of our students the ability to achieve. Rejecting that one-size-fits-all mentality unless you want to wear Miss Tennyson's shoes. and I rock those stilettos. We took an honest look at ourselves as educators and identified our own personal biases and implicit biases. Through some scenarios, we observed how we can effectively communicate with all of our students. Thank you so much and broaden your view, but don't forget, you're not done until that survey is done. But I do thank you for your time.